Welcome to Cast of Creators. We're your hosts. I'm Nelson Thal.
And I'm Casie Stewart. We've spent our careers in media and publishing, and now we're setting the stage for creative people who inspire us to share their story.
Our guest today is Mariah Owen. Mariah is an award-winning actress and filmmaker. She started her company, GTE Productions, at 21 and has been called the youngest executive producer in Hollywood.
We talked about the role of a producer, the kinds of films she likes to make, and her upcoming feature. Here we go.
Well, Mariah, welcome to Cast of Creators.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so glad to have you.
We're so glad to have you. We started digging into you, okay,
Dun, dun.
and we were just blown away with everything that you've accomplished so far at such a young age.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
And
wild.
It's wild. And you know what? As we started to watch the trailers of your movies, because we haven't had a lot of time to dig into the movie themselves, although Casie is like right up, your stuff is right up Casey's alley.
Yes, like, Daddy's Playground and MFA. I was like, Nelson is like, Casie, these are totally your style of movies. Like, I love that kind of dark, someone gets murdered, there's something. Maybe it's like revenge or something. I love those. That's my style.
Mine too.
Yeah.
I love it. I love watching them. I love making them.
Yeah.
So definitely a lot of fun. So I'm glad to hear that.
Well, you know what? Look, I've only seen the trailers, okay? I'll preface that. But each one of them has such a sophisticated vibe, a sinister vibe of just like that's on point. You know what I mean? For the genre and for the plot. And I think that each, all of them have a level of sophistication to them and really a level of, experience and wisdom that you rarely see in anything I watch, to be honest. Like, they're awesome.
I'm sweating.
It's true. It's true. Because you can watch content, a lot of the time you'll watch content and you'll look, this looks amateur budget, okay? And none of your stuff looks like that.
That's amazing because those ones in particular are smaller budgets and have had an incredible team. MFA, first feature, loved it. And it was written by my very, very, very close friend and, frequent collaborator, Leah McKendrick. Her first feature as well. And we just wrapped another feature a couple weeks ago.
Amazing.
So super stoked.
An applause.
But yeah, just incredible teams and DPs and
what does MFA stand for?
Master of Fine Arts.
Oh, okay.
Love it.
So she's a master's student, and it's a female vigilante thriller about campus rape for those listening. So
yes,
check it out. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on. Okay, that was my next question. Where can people watch it, and where am I gonna? Because I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna watch it ASAP.
It's a tough watch. Like we have some very tough scenes in there. So just a quick trigger warning for people listening. But it's definitely a really powerful film that we're, proud of. It, premiered at South by, went to theaters, and was a really, really incredible experience and a good conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, and walk me through. So obviously that film, all your films really, but that film in particular dives pretty deep into an emotional topic.
Right.
And what do you, when you're dealing with actors who are trying to sort of get into the headspace of that topic, how do you avoid the entire film set just being a pretty morose, depressed sort of vibe across that entire shoot?
That's a really great question. I think for me, I was a producer on those. I produced and acted for MFA and then just produced for Daddy's Playground. But I think in particular, when you're dealing with projects that have such a tough subject matter, it's important to really trust your team. So have a really strong, team above and below the line. Because yes, the actors are on screen and performing those actions, but often everyone is at a monitor watching and fully affected by that.
Totally.
Whether they've had a similar experience or not. Yeah. So my job as a producer is to really set the tone and make sure my team feels safe and they feel secure, and to, have at the end of the day, like we make movies, we don't save lives, but we often get to really highlight really unfortunate topics, to start conversations. So creating a safe space to say that. And I know that's such a buzzword, but really doing that.
It's important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like making people feel comfortable to ask questions or, say when they're uncomfortable.
Well, the thing is, if the actors are doing their job well, then it's almost a double-edged sword in the sense that if they're doing their job well, then it's gonna get heavy.
Yep.
And so it's like you don't want the set to be this lively, upbeat, frickin' jokey place.
Totally.
Because then you're setting the wrong tone for them to even do their job well. So it's quite it must be exhausting. Actually, that whole shoot must be exhausting emotionally.
I love it. I feel like I'm like such a weirdo because
Totally. That's like Casie.
I'm like, I love it. I want to be,
I love
eat, sleep, breathe it. And there's been a few projects I've done since that have had difficult subject matter or, just really difficult scenes, whether they've been intimate scenes or just scenes, regarding trauma or grief. And I think as our industry has grown, there's some things I wish I could have done or wish I had known about more. At the time that we did MFA, we filmed it in 2016. It premiered in 2017, and intimacy coordinators just weren't available. They weren't a thing yet. And
this is at universities, intimacy coordinators at universities. What is this?
Intimacy coordinators is a wonderful position that is so heavily needed, and basically for intimate scenes. So whether those are sex scenes or
on set, intimacy coordinators on set.
So you have stunt coordinators for stunts. You have intimacy coordinators for intimate scenes.
Wow, I know.
Yeah.
Some people could use that in real life.
Absolutely. You know what? Absolutely.
An intimacy coordinator,
Yeah.
It's true. But just to make sure that everyone feels safe on set and, a really wonderful, I'm sure, do you know Lindsay Summers?
No, but it sounds familiar.
She is amazing. And she started Intimacy Coordinators Canada. And so super grateful and inspired that there are people like her who are intimacy coordinators. And I've been able to use them since. On our last film, we used an intimacy coordinator. But there's things now that also... We have, extra resources. Once you kind of do a film, you get more money for the next one, so you're able to afford more resources. So now always having an intimacy coordinator to help attribute to making people feel more safe.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if that's one of your line items towards the top of your budget,
it's true.
Then you're dealing with a pretty heavy film. Like, we're going to need the intimacy coordinator for this one.
It's true, but even just the smallest thing, because both, I'm a producer, but I'm also a performer, and I think there's, I see it on both sides, because when I was an actor, I would be like, oh, wow, like everyone's telling me to hurry up and rush. And as a producer, I'm like, we're running out of time.
Mm-hmm.
But now really understanding that as I get older, and have some meteor projects and meteor roles, having someone in your corner is so valuable, and it's imperative to your success, especially when you're dealing with that type of material. So it's exciting, and it should just be a standard.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
Now, this is MFA is your first movie produced by GTE.
Yes.
Okay, so GTE is your production company that you founded at 21.
Yes.
And
which is wild.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to know about, so what led you to being the founder of your own production company? And what does GTE stand for? Because I had some ideas, but my ideas aren't probably right.
I kind of want to hear your ideas.
My idea, okay. So, obviously, being from Toronto, I would be like Greater Toronto Entertainment, Greater Toronto, like something around Greater Toronto.
It's true.
But I felt like it probably isn't that.
I love that. It's not. It stands for Jerry Turner Entertainment.
Okay.
So Jerry was my grandpa.
Beautiful.
Turner, Garfield Turner, was one of my really good friends and teammates. Both unfortunately passed away. And entertainment, just entertaining, stage, script, screen.
Totally.
And, they were two people that really believed in me and would walk into a room and light it up and make everyone feel special and
beautiful.
Heard. And, it was funny in the beginning because I really started my production company out of necessity. I would walk in and have meetings and try and get ahead or try and pitch projects. And people would say to me, oh, we'll work with you in a couple of years. We'll work with you in a couple of years. And I was like, well, I don't want to wait a couple of years. Like, right. I'm ready now. Mm-hmm. And I had been working as a social media producer, really starting doing social media as a side hustle in college. And I was doing a bunch of the actor social media at my agency.
Okay.
So my agent had actors that were far more ahead in their careers than me and a lot older. And I was doing social media, and she was like, hey, could you help them? So I was like, sure. And I was asked through a friend of a friend who had heard that I'd been doing this to be a social media producer for a web series.
Cool.
And I had no idea what that really meant. And I was just like, yeah, let's do it. And so I did that. And I didn't necessarily have the best experience with the director that I was working with. It was pretty problematic, but the show moved ahead really quickly.
Nice.
And I met some really wonderful people, both on cast and crew. And I was like, I love this. Like, and I had experience. I did the comedy writing program at Second City. And part of that is you write a show for the main stage when you graduate.
That's a cool program.
I love it there. I grew up at Second City doing improv. And so
Cool.
That's awesome.
I want to go back. It's just so much fun.
I bet.
Yeah. But between those experiences and already being a performer, I was like, I think I can do this. I don't know if I can do it better, but I think I can treat people better. So that's really how I started.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I did. My friend George from college went to U of T. He had written a script called Ergo Sum. So we filmed that. It did well. Went to a couple festivals. It was non-union.
Awesome.
And did another. And then I was like, okay, I want to work with union actors.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew ACTRA and went on their website and was like, oh, perfect. I'll do an ACTRA tip, which at the time is a program. At the time is the Toronto Indie Production, and it doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
And part of it, we had to be incorporated.
Yeah.
And you either had to be CMPA, which is the Canadian Media Producers Association, or know someone who was that would mentor you. And I was like, well, I don't know anyone in the CMPA. Like, my parents aren't in the industry. Right. I didn't go to film school. I don't know what I'm going to do, but maybe I could incorporate.
Let's incorporate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And because no one, I would take pitch meetings, and like I said, people were like, we'll work with you. You're too young, basically. Yeah. And so I incorporated kind of out of necessity. And I was like, okay, one, check mark down, and then now have to tackle this CMPA adventure. And I asked an actor, who asked a director, who asked an editor, who asked a producer.
Wow.
The weirdest chain. And this really wonderful producer up in Ottawa jumped on the phone with me. He's no longer producing, but we had this great chat. I was like, yeah, I want to make this film with Brittany. Actually, it was expiry date.
Oh, awesome.
Yes. And, this is what I want to do. These are the stories that I want to tell. And he was like, yeah, I think that's great. Like, we'll talk soon. I was like, okay. So he emails me. And I'm like so excited because I'm like, he's going to be my CMPA mentor. Like, this is awesome.
Right.
Like,
it's happening.
Woohoo. And the first line of the email was like, I love chatting with you. I think you're really talented and so ambitious, and I'm so excited for you, but I just don't have the time to mentor you.
Right.
So I closed my laptop, was so dramatic. I probably bawled my eyes out for an hour and was like, I'm a loser. And then I was like, I have to respond to this guy who took time out of his life for me. And so I went back to the email and I started reading it, or continued reading it. And what he said was, I can't be your mentor, but I can refer you to join the CMPA.
Oh.
So it was
amazing.
Really amazing. Yeah. And from there, totally, and so joined the CMPA, made that first short, got into different projects, and from there just moved forward. I feel really badly.
My mom has just texted me, and my mom said,
the answer to that question's a
Mom here. We are in Christmas Cove, Maine. Very poor internet. Marina closed. Would you be able to give Uncle Jimmy a quick call and wish him a happy birthday? They're twins, my mom and Uncle Jimmy. Could not get Lisa at Jim's number. Love you. Hope your day went well. So my mom is sailing on her way to the Bahamas from Georgian Bay on their 40-foot sailboat.
Where do they dock in Georgian Bay?
Lion's Head.
Oh my God, Tobermory.
Yeah, Tobermory, Lion's Head.
I dock in Collingwood.
Oh,
yeah,
see?
There you go.
We had
I love
Her
it.
mom is quite the adventure traveler.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
To head out of Georgian Bay, head down to the Bahamas from Georgian
So they're going to do the lock system. And
they did all the locks. They went out to Nova
Trent.
Scotia. They were in Nova Scotia for like about a month, and now they're down to Maine, and they are heading down to Bahamas for the winter. And this is the second time that she has done this trek.
Okay, that is
It's
so
amazing.
Cool.
She's very cool. She's also second in black belt in Taekwondo. She is like very stylish and very cool. She
can fend off any pirates.
Yeah. I mean, I might let
excursion.
Jack Sparrow onto my boat, but like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, it's fun. It's like, this is real life happening here, people.
And you're a boater.
I am.
Nelson is also, we are all boaters.
We're all boaters.
And cottage people.
Yes. Yeah. I love being up there. It's so special and just so nice to de-stress.
It's you can take a step away from whatever's happening. Like as soon as we go up to the cottage, I'm like, I just leave my city life behind and take a big break. And I feel like I always come back feeling refreshed.
Totally.
You know?
That's so true.
Or she works from up there.
Yeah.
But even working from up there it's different. Like
It's different.
I'll go to my boat and I have a cuddy cabin and I'll stay on there and live my little pirate life and have either hotspot internet or just walk up and find a coffee shop. Like it's working.
How long is your boat?
22 feet.
Oh, great.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's good.
Nelson bought a new boat during COVID times.
Yeah, I did.
It's a real beaut.
Thank you. It's called Emotional Rescue.
Okay, that's an amazing name.
Thank
I
you.
love it.
I didn't come up with it.
Okay.
It came with that name.
When you can't change
which
the name.
is even better because you can find boats that have a real lame name.
It's true.
I see a lot of like sexual innuendo names
Weird.
on boats. I don't want a sexual innuendo boat.
Yep.
I want just a, actually,
Yeah,
this
like
is
a
like the
good
best
name.
name I've
Emotional
almost ever
Rescue is a
seen for a
good
boat.
name.
It's a good
It
good
is.
name.
It's a great name. You should
Our boat's
change it.
called Kahuna.
No, I'm not going to change it.
Kahuna's nice.
Kahuna is our boat.
Right.
What's your boat's name?
Intrepid.
Okay.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
nice too.
My dad loved the word intrepid and he would use it all the
Yeah.
time. So I was like, I'm naming my boat Intrepid.
I have an 8-month-old daughter.
Very exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. And my whole life, my family's had a 19-foot bow rider,
Oh, awesome.
which are great until you have an 8-month-old
Yeah.
or a newborn. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it wasn't going to work.
Right.
And boating's a pretty big chunk of what summer's about for us because we're on Lake Simcoe.
Yep.
So I knew I needed something with a bathroom.
There you go.
And I knew I needed something that like she could go and take a nap on.
Right.
So it was actually quite nice how it happened. A friend of mine ended up sending me, his new girlfriend liked boats. And he sent me a boat. He said, Nell, you know what? I'd love to buy this boat. And we encouraged him to buy it because it was a very good deal. It was like a very good deal on
During
a
COVID, it
big
was
boat.
crazy.
This is actually a couple of years prior.
Okay.
Okay. So what ended up happening was he put this boat on Simcoe
Yep.
and we all were using it together.
Right.
But he never really, it's a 38-foot boat. And if you've never driven boats, it's a big jump. And it really is a big jump because it doesn't have a bow thruster. It's got two engines and dual concentric drives, but it doesn't have a bow thruster. So you really have to deal with wind and all sorts of stuff. So either way, during COVID, he came to me. He's like, Nell, prices on boats are like going through the roof. I'd love to sell the boat. So I said,
Twist my
I don't want to pay like the COVID price, but like I'd love to buy it for what you bought it for. And then we got it. And it's
thing.
I love it. I use it every weekend.
Amazing.
And it's Ariel loves it. She goes on it, and she does nothing but smile and squeak, and like it's really cute. So we've just been having an amazing summer on it. So it's just really actually fun. We should all get boating together.
Yeah,
one time.
No, I love that.
I mean, I love boating.
Yeah.
I mean,
Our
many adventures.
last company excursion, we're trying to do like company-wide excursions at Hover.
Yeah.
Was salmon fishing on Lake Ontario.
yeah,
And
we rented a
was
boat. It was awesome.
We chartered like a 50-foot boat and went salmon fishing for the day.
Good for you guys.
On Lake Ontario. I mean,
Did you catch any?
Yeah, we caught a big, huge guy. I ate. He was like, filleting the fish and getting it all, and he cut a piece off, and like I ate it. Like it was like
Fresh.
Yeah,
fresh.
well, the
It
next
was
time
so
we
good.
go, we got to bring wasabi and soy sauce.
Yeah,
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah,
because
it was really
awesome.
That's
I
amazing.
never imagined you could catch this type of salmon on Lake Ontario. I've caught them in the whirlpool, like by Niagara Falls.
Yep.
But I didn't realize they ventured down to Mississauga.
Yeah.
I'm not a fisher woman.
Oh.
No, me
I think it's
neither,
amazing.
really.
I've gone deep sea fishing, and basically what I did,
Yes.
it was like a team excursion.
Yeah.
And
Just like this.
my teammates and I just this is probably really bad, and I'm sorry if you are a true fisherman, but like just let the line go as far down and cross your fingers. Like there was no
Oh, that's good.
No
but are
actual
you not a
expertise.
fisher? Do you not eat fish?
I don't. I'm vegetarian.
Oh,
but
okay.
still, like
I'm allergic to fish. Okay.
Oh, you went up me. Okay.
Well, you know what though? Even though there's something about setting that hook and frickin' feeling that fish.
so you're catch and release.
Well, this wasn't all catch and release. Some of it's catch and release. But some of it's catch and, release onto the stove.
Hey, that works. That works.
But yeah, I mean, ultimately, you're keeping only the mature fish.
Yep.
So
Yeah, none of the little guys.
But
Yeah.
I completely understand the vegetarian choice. Okay, I've dabbled in the vegetarian selection. For me, it sort of tiptoed me into carbs, like crazy carbs. Okay, vegetarianism, but like I get into pretty deep into deep fried stuff and pizza if I'm going vegetarian. But I totally understand it. It's great, and I felt awesome when I was vegan for a bit.
I've never been vegan, so good for you.
Or vegetarian, vegetarian for a bit.
No, it's good. 10 years.
Yeah.
10
good
years.
for you.
Wow,
Amazing.
good for you. Wow.
Thank you.
And you also, getting into other things that, aside from your incredible career in like film, entertainment, acting, you also have athletic history, because I know you were in cheerleading.
Yes.
And I've also seen you, I'm pretty sure I've seen you do a back tuck on your Instagram. Tell me more about that, because were you a world champion cheerleader?
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my last time competing at Worlds was 2016.
That's
And,
wild.
Wow.
Yeah, I miss it.
That wasn't even that long ago.
I
Not that
know.
long ago.
There's always a part of me that's like, oh, maybe I'm 28, and some of my teammates are still cheering and still competing. And so I grew up. My mom's a gymnastics coach.
Oh,
so I
cool.
grew up in the
My
gym.
dad was a gymnastics coach. He did mostly trampoline. Yeah.
Oh my! Our parents
Cambridge.
our parents like Cambridge Kips.
Yeah.
Okay, our parents probably know each other, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, Cambridge
amazing.
Kips.
Yeah, the gymnastics mafia.
Yes.
My mom is at Gymnastics Mississauga.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my other friends, Sarah Baker, is also a gymnastics coach still. Currently, she's like a friend
That
that I
sounds
grew up
really
with.
too.
She's in Ottawa. No, she's not in Ottawa anymore, but she was. She's also a Cambridge Kips
Oh
person.
my God! See, the world is
Yeah.
so small. I love it.
Yeah.
See, we have to continue our little friendship.
Yeah.
I love it. But yeah, so I grew up in the gym and got into actually ski racing. I got to a point in gymnastics where I just couldn't get a skill, and my grandma loved skiing, and she was like, "Why don't we get Mariah skiing?" And I was 7, and I started skiing and racing the same year, so ski racing.
Oh, wow.
And I
Like
just
slalom or
slalom, GS, all of that, and I really loved it. And so I
GS
continue.
is hardcore.
What's GS?
giant
Slalom.
Oh, okay.
They're just basically all slalom, and then just different variations, bigger turns.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I loved it, and still to this day, some of my closest friends and like my best friend Christina, I met ski racing, and how I got back into cheerleading was that I was looking for something to do in the off season from skiing,
Awesome.
and I played volleyball at school. I did synchronized swimming. Like I was just always loved sports and being really active, and but looking for something in the summer in particular. And I don't know what it is. I can't play soccer to save my life. Like I can run and I can kick. I just can't apparently do it at the same time. For someone who can, flip and twist and do all that stuff, soccer is not my thing.
Soccer wasn't for me either.
Thank you for
Goalie,
saying
but
that.
it wasn't for me.
Good to know. Was it for you?
I didn't really I did Taekwondo. I never did any team sports. I did cheerleading a bit in high school until I fell and got a bad injury, like a concussion. But I'm not like, I like to work out, but I'm not really a sports. I'm always like, yay, sports. I'm not really a sports
That's cool,
type
too.
person.
It's a big
Yeah.
field.
I feel like
That's soccer.
Good one.
It is.
Nelson's
It's
a
big.
dad now, so he makes the dad jokes.
It's
true.
true.
It's true.
It's true. It's big. You get out there, especially as a kid, you're like, this thing, how am I going to deal with this?
My sister played a lot of
Like an
soccer.
ice rink.
It's
I can
true.
wrap my head around an ice rink as a kid. But you go out on that soccer field as a kid and you're like, what am I doing on this thing?
crazy. There's too many people. It's chaotic.
Yeah.
But yeah, and most people in skiing played soccer in the off season.
Right.
And I had all this experience from gymnastics, and my working for my mom in the gym and all of that. A couple of the girls had gone from gymnastics to cheerleading. We're like, hey, why don't you try cheer?
Yeah.
And I tried it and I loved it. I was at PCT Cobras for a really long time, which is a gym in Mississauga. And then did a couple seasons at Cheer Force Wolfpack in Oakville, and I was on Team Canada
Wow.
in 2011. So that was a long time ago now. It was the first time I was on Team Canada, and we
That's incredible.
won our gold medal there, which was really awesome. And then I was on Team Canada again 2015.
Wow.
So yeah, I love sports.
Amazing.
And thank you.
How big is the cheer team?
24.
24.
24. So I was
2 dozen.
oh, there you go. You're really crushing the dad jokes.
Hey, you know what? It just sort of grows on you, I guess, when
I
you're
love
father.
that. That's amazing.
I'll try and make some more for you girls later. Yeah,
Thank
as
you
the thing
so
comes
much.
on. Yeah.
We can't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I think that there's so much that sports have taught me that I take into my everyday life.
Yeah.
So being an athlete will forever, even though I truthfully, I don't go to the gym every day. I really need to. I still have certain injuries from the sport that working on, but it's definitely a part of me and a part of who I am. And yeah, just even, dependability. You show up when you don't feel like it.
100%.
You work hard. Yeah.
Well, your
I get
morning
it.
routine, you must have been up early.
You know what? I've always I wish I was better with routines, and I feel a little bit embarrassed. And
Yeah,
a little bit
I
shameful.
assume that you would be.
I'm a little bit more of fly by the seat of my pants and wing it type of person. I feel better when I do a routine, or if I have my nice list and I have my nice looking journal.
Yeah.
Wow, I have my life together, and then I completely leave that somewhere and I forget about it, and then I'm running and So I think yeah, but I think
the things that you learn in because I did gymnastics too when I was a kid, and I was in dance, so I was taken out of the I did a lot of competitions. I was 5 years old, fake eyelashes and a hairpiece. I've been on stage, a lot when I was growing up. But the things I learned in dance, shut up, Nelson. The things that I learned as a kid, in dance, the perseverance, the self-control, the fighting through something even though you don't want to do it, or even dealing with an injury, or working on a team and supporting your and following through and things. And even just the way that you walk with your shoulders back and your head held high, those kind of things. But those things have stayed with me, and I'm so grateful to have learned them as a kid, and it's you can apply those skills to so many other things in your life. And I think that, growing up, whether it's in the gym or in some type of sport or dance or whatever, you really learn a lot.
I
you can apply later.
It's true. And even to this day, when people ask me, what does a producer do? I break it down into sports.
Yeah.
Because half my family is what do you do? It makes no sense. You just look like you go to fun parties and hang out with movie stars. And I'm well, it's actually a lot harder.
Yeah.
But usually, I know you guys get it for people listening.
Expand on that answer, though.
Yeah. I'd love to, for someone listening, what does a producer do?
So how I break it down into sports, basically actors are your athletes, your directors, your coach, agents are the parents, and a producer is the team owner or team manager. So you're responsible. It's a very large umbrella term for someone that connects with every single person and department. So you're responsible from everything from, getting the uniforms on time and making sure people go to their competition and they do their promos, and, to making sure we have insurance. It's kind of a massive, pretty much everything behind the scenes that you can think of, in addition to getting the project, start to finish. So that's kind of, I feel when I say that, people are oh yeah, team manager, that makes sense. You do kind of everything. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a really good example, it is a good example of producing, because the job changes every time depending on how many people you have, how much money you have, the scale and scope of the project. But for the most part, it's, making sure that you're communicating effectively and making sure that everyone has what they need to do their jobs,
And would the executive producer be the owner? The team owner?
Yeah.
Or maybe a sponsor sometimes?
Yeah, sponsor. That's a really good, I've never really thought about having the executive producer an EP on that, but totally. EP doesn't always mean money. Sometimes it's creative. Sometimes it's a person that did a favor or had some type of say in a way, or connection. If I didn't know you and Casie introduced us, then maybe Casie would get an EP credit. We would negotiate something. So sometimes it's a negotiating credit. Can I say that?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
So
did I just speak English?
It's a credit negotiation.
Thank you.
A negotiated credit.
Thank you. Yeah.
So most of the time, an executive producer, in terms of the amount of sweat they're putting into the project, it's ultimately less than the producer. The producer's working more of the producer's time is spent on that project than the executive producer.
Yeah.
But arguably, both roles, you would never have the ultimate project. You need both roles to get the project going. So when you start, let's say you had a script you loved and a pile of money.
Ooh.
Okay, that was more than enough money to make the movie.
Okay, I like the sounds of this.
Yeah,
do
putting it out there.
Start then breaking this out into how do you organize this thing? Do you get a nice Excel document going? What does ultimately that result in for you?
That's a really great question. Honestly, it changes every single time. Usually what happens is either someone will have a script and love the script, and then from there try and bring on a director, try and attach a cast, in addition to creating a budget. Other times it's just an idea. It's just an idea with a creator, and then we'll enter into development and develop that project further. Or other situations that I've had, like my production company just handles production. I really, at this time of my life, don't have interest in being a distributor. Or, I think further down the line, maybe I'd like to have a studio and to, have a place for Canadians to come and film. But
Wait, so when you say just handles production, you mean if I had money and a script, I could come to you and I could say, I love this script. I've got this budget. Do you love it? If you said, I love it, then basically you're my one-stop shop to getting this thing made.
Basically. So that would be service producing. And I've been a service producer multiple times. Most recently on this new feature, it's an animated feature. My first time doing animation, which I'm stoked about.
Wow.
It's called Gracie and Pedro. It's not on my IMDb yet. I jumped on that project in 2020. They're an American, South African, now Canadian co-production.
And when you jump on the project, what do they have for you to have the confidence and the interest to jump on that? What do they have ready for you?
Just
like sketches and a.
That's a really good question. I feel badly that I don't have like an answer for you.
No, that's okay.
I think what they had at that time was a really awesome team. They had a really awesome story. They had a plan in place, and what they really needed was a producer to come in and execute that plan. In addition to being Canadian for the tax credit.
Great.
So that's also a huge part of the game, so
Absolutely.
And I do enjoy service producing for certain projects, but I also really love making original content. So when I say my company just does production, like I'm not, I don't really love the idea of becoming a distributor and trying to negotiate that deal for someone else. Or, there's a lot of other companies that will expand into different areas, and I love scripted. That's what I feel like I do best in. So I want to stay there. Yeah.
So sometimes basically you're saying that you'll wear the hat of an EP and a producer.
Yes.
And your role, your company's role will basically be about producing something that you really incubate.
Right.
Is that's what you mean when you say you're not a producer as a service? That's the differentiation.
I mean, I'm not like a producer for hire. Like I don't take a lot of projects. If someone was like, hey, I have, $4 million in this script about zombie Irish dancers going to the apocalypse prom. Like I'd be like, no, thank you. Like that's like not my vibe. So even though it's $4 million, wow, that's amazing. Yeah. But, I think if the project aligns with what I typically like to do, and I am trying to branch out a little bit more, got my start, especially with MFA and Daddy's Playground and Expiry Date. And it's really interesting with Expiry Date. I'd love to talk on that because the film I just did is a very similar topic.
Absolutely.
About egg fertility.
Yeah.
But
that's a great.
I know that one all too well.
Yeah. So this is a big topic.
Let's dive into that.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah. Well, so we'll forget the other stuff. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's talk about that because Nelson has a lot of experience in that area.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It's really, really difficult. And it's, I remember, so Brittany Johnson wrote this great short. This is, again, 2016. I think, we filmed it July 2016. And she wrote it basically a comedy about her eggs dying. And she was
about her what?
Eggs dying. She was 27. And her, at the time, now husband.
Terrible.
Back then, boyfriend. And his mom and people in her life being like, when are you going to have babies? Are you going to get married? And she's like, I remember the line in the movie is like, I'm only 20-friggin-7. Like, I have all this time. Mm-hmm. And when we did that movie, I was 21 and I was like, that seems like it's so far away, like 27. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Why are you worried about your eggs? Like, we're going to be young forever.
Totally.
And fast forward these years, and this year I turned 28. And now I'm starting to think about freezing my eggs because so many of my friends have decided to freeze their eggs or are going through IVF and have had these really, turbulent and difficult, but then ultimately triumphant
you'd hope.
Success, So
you'd hope for sure.
But yeah, this last feature I just wrapped a couple weeks ago. It's a comedy about egg fertility called Scrambled.
Oh,
excited!
Yes. That'll be great.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to watch it.
Love to watch that.
Really excited. So my friend and frequent collaborator, Leah McKendrick, who I did MFA with, we also did a Poison Ivy origin story called Pamela and Ivy. Ooh.
Yeah,
and she turned 35 last year and decided to freeze her eggs and wrote a movie about it.
Smart move.
Yeah, and she not only wrote it, she directs and stars. So it was really awesome and a really cool opportunity. And we're in post right now. So it was interesting to revisit that topic with the mindset of, oh, wow, I see myself in this versus with the expiry date, it felt like it was so far away and so far removed, but a great story. So my brain back then was like, this sounds important. Like, people believe in this, but it doesn't necessarily affect me, but I want to help. And now I'm like, oh, wow, this is very real for me. Like, this is, something that can really affect my life. So interesting.
Yeah, totally.
Absolutely. You know what? I never imagined I would know so much about that topic. But through COVID, my wife did 7 rounds of IVF in less than a year and a half.
Wow.
And she's an unbelievably strong woman to be able to do that.
Totally.
And they were all unsuccessful. And we ended up in a very in a situation where you really didn't have no one had any information about why they were unsuccessful. And it was awful. It was awful. Mm-hmm. And it was the type of experience that really, sometimes your life is just not in your own hands, and you have dreams that there's nothing you could do to make the dream a reality.
So helpless.
You're completely helpless. And unfortunately for women, like, especially with my wife, shoulder. So like the first time you meet with them, it's like the clock's ticking, like, the clock's ticking, like, and, you're almost like a write-off at her age when you have the first frickin' meeting.
Right.
Now, fortunately, it was further. There are further issues because we did the first round of IVF and made no embryos. Okay, you know it well, so I can, you did the first round, no embryos. Second round, no embryos. So we were like, totally.
What's going on?
You're like basically totally out in no man's land.
Right.
So we ended up in no man's land early. And then ultimately, we ended up making embryos, but then we batched, which in hindsight, I wouldn't have done, but there's a unique nuances to it that was made it so it made sense to batch. But then we tested them all and they're all abnormal. Okay. So after the 7 rounds, you have embryos and then you test them all and they're all abnormal. And then we were basically like, 'cause after 6 rounds, they're all normal. Yeah. And so in Canada, they won't implant any of them. So you test them, and then in Canada, they won't implant any of them. You have to go to the States to implant them. So even like in Canada, if you test your embryos and they're abnormal, no doctor's going to really implant them here.
I almost dropped an F-bomb, but that's really messed up.
Yeah, and even if they're like, if they're what they call mosaic, they'll implant them. But if they're and there's a lot of studies that potentially it would work. Potentially, you know what I mean? Like you really don't know. Like our daughter is. So then what we did was we switched clinics, and we ended up doing our first fresh transfer. So we did a round, and we did a fresh transfer. And the joke is, out of all of the 7 rounds, the only time we actually had an opportunity to get pregnant was that round, because it's the only time we did a transfer, right? All the other times you're freezing.
Right.
So, which is kind of a joke actually, in the sense that like if I were going to do it again, I would have started transferring fresh.
How would you know? The information is so limited.
Right. And you know what? And they're pushing the testing. Which is fine too. They can do their thing, but like, you know what I mean? But the thing is though, the interesting thing about the transfer is the transfer is the only time that they're giving the woman drugs to accept an embryo.
Oh, I didn't know.
So the rest of the time, they're just giving you drugs to pump out more eggs than normal. Okay. So like basically the rounds of IVF are just like, give the woman drugs so she brings more eggs than normal to maturity, and then they collect those eggs.
Right.
So throughout that round, there's never a time where they're giving you drugs to prepare your uterus to accept an embryo, okay? Because you're not doing a transfer, right? So what was interesting was after the 7 rounds, the 7th round, we did the transfer, which is before the transfer, they basically are giving you drugs so your body will accept the embryo.
Okay.
That pregnancy, and Talia did have a chemical pregnancy. Okay, which basically means that the embryo implanted and you were able to register that the body was putting out the chemicals that were basically signaling that you were pregnant. But unfortunately, that ended up being a miscarriage. So instead of the numbers continuing to go way up, they just sort of went up a little bit and then fluttered and like sifted down.
Yeah.
The next month, so that the next month was the miscarriage, and then the next month we got pregnant naturally.
After all that.
After all of that, and we ended up testing. We were coming back from the cottage.
Oh
we
God,
ended
sorry.
up. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
We ended up on. So we were dreading Mother's Day. We ended up doing the pregnancy test on Mother's Day, and Talia got the positive pregnancy test on Mother's Day.
That's amazing.
And you know what? The crazy thing is, after all of when you battle through something and you're always expecting the best, okay? When you go into something, always sort of making sure that you're either supporting your partner or you're hoping for the best and wishing for the best. And every time you do, you just get like, no, you know what I mean? It's not happening.
Down.
You know, like, no, shut down. Like you're getting shut down. What ends up happening is when you finally get the outcome you want, your body's so numb to the whole thing that you're just hedging all of the emotion anyway. So the joke is you're looking at this pregnancy test and it's like half of you's hedging it.
Right.
Because you do not want to really get excited because you've just had nothing but like disaster and failure and heartbreak. So you're like completely not counting chickens.
Yeah.
Like you're like so over being the person counting chickens before they hatch.
Right.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
That you're looking at this pregnancy test and you're happy, but you're like half of you is already hedging like the outcome
like
that
it's
you
not
don't
gonna
want.
happen
So like,
something.
throughout that whole pregnancy and through COVID, I never really heard the heartbeat until the day of the C-section because I never was allowed in the operating room. I never
Because of COVID.
He couldn't go in.
What a peculiar experience it must have been.
It was crazy. So it's like until that day, it's kind of like you can feel your baby kicking and you feel, but it's like your heart is like half in it,
right? Because
just to protect yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I mean, fortunately, we were blessed with just an unbelievable baby girl named Ariel, and but it was just it was brutal. It was brutal. You were completely in no man's land, and it was brutal. So I mean, I'm interested in watching the movie because I think it's something that you don't really know about.
Yeah, and one of the good things is people are talking about it more, and that those are conversations that people are having. And I find I follow, a bunch of people that I follow are actually sharing their fertility struggles or their journey, or
and that's hard to do while it happens. Really hard to do,
and just
we didn't do that. Really.
Letting people know that you're not alone if you're going through this thing.
Totally.
I mean, I don't have kids, and I've chosen not to have kids, but I mean, I support anyone who does, and like knowing how people have struggled through that journey is, just being supportive to them. And like, I knew what these guys were going through, and knowing that miracles can happen. Really, I think that's an important thing to remember, because when just meeting Ariel and knowing Ariel and that she's here, and Nelson said to me so many times, "Can't believe she's real. She's really here."
Real.
You guys are making me cry.
Don't cry.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for you both, and that's congratulations. And I know she's 8 months old now, but like that's amazing. And it's I can't even imagine the roller coaster of emotions. And it's also, there's so much joy, but also so much grief, because there's so much change and so much hopes up and hopes lost. And how did you guys? I feel like this does relate a lot to film as well, but how did you stay hopeful?
Great question. You know what ultimately ends up happening is you end up realizing you are either going to wash down a tube that is complete just despair and sadness, or you stay hopeful. Mm-hmm. Realistically, like you sort of look at, like, that's your choice, because you can easily get washed down.
Totally.
And so the only reason you're hopeful is because you're trying to stay out of that. in some respect. It's almost like, and you know what? When it came down to it, we were sort of in a position where it was like the odds were so against us that it was almost kind of like after 7 rounds and creating all these embryos and the age factor and all sorts of other nuances to it. It was like, it was a joke. Like it was almost like it almost became a joke in the sense that like, come on, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like this is insane. And there was no real other choice but to stay hopeful, to be honest, at least with our personalities, because the other choice was like unthinkable.
Right.
Because it was a very dark choice, you know, that other lane.
I think it's so powerful to choose to be hopeful and to choose to still see the good and to choose to, and I do think it's a choice. Like, yes, so much of it is your personality, but it's interesting. And I find the people that are the most hopeful have usually been through the most shit as well.
Yeah.
You know, and it's interesting.
And the thing was, you know, as much as you get married and you imagine a family, we didn't get married to have kids.
Right.
So we always used to say to each other, you know, like we didn't get married to have kids. So we got to be careful that this marriage isn't about having a child, okay? Because if your marriage becomes about having kids and you can't have kids, you're going to lose your marriage too. And you can lose your marriage in that situation very quickly.
Yeah.
Because you come under pressure and all of a sudden, you know, there's certain decisions that you can make that, you know, especially when it comes to, are you going to use an egg donor? Are you going to try a sperm donor? Like, if you don't know any answers, you have to mix up what's going on.
Totally.
So, like, it gets pretty, you know, you can see how it ends up in a separation very quickly.
Absolutely.
So, fortunately, you know, we weren't close to that.
You made it through.
We made it through. So, yeah, so I'm interested in that movie. And I think that, you know, the thread across all your movies seems to be topics that touch people at their deepest level.
Thank you.
You know, and I think that is really wonderful because when you touch people at their deepest, most intimate levels, you connect with people in incredibly meaningful ways. And you may connect with less people in the sense, but you connect with that group in a very deep, profound way.
Like,
and
it's more meaningful.
You find your
absolutely.
people.
You find your people. And I think that, you know, I don't know if you're consciously attracted to projects like that, but it seems to me that you're excelling at that in a very in a way that's going to be very meaningful for the people who are really touched by your work. And that was what really excited me about having you here with us.
I'd like
because
to
it's
ask
beautiful.
About one of your quarantine projects that you wrote, directed, produced, and starred in, Disconnected, which was recently streaming on CBC.
It's September 27th. It'll premiere on CBC.
Okay.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for saying that. So nice of you.
So welcome. You deserve it.
Thanks. But Disconnected. So I was at home in quarantine. Originally, I was living in Vancouver at this time. Came home for that weird 2-week period. And to see my parents, came back to Toronto.
The first 2 week period.
The first 2 weeks, to flatten the curve. March 2016, or not even, I came home March 16th, 2020. Sorry, brain fart. Anyways, and I ended up staying for a couple months, and I was sitting at my kitchen island in quarantine, and I was just really, I felt like I had hit a wall. Like, it was a time where I felt like doors were finally opening for me. I had, it had been a really difficult time. I lost a lot of people in a short amount of time, not due to COVID, but to either overdose, accidents, a lot of grieving. And I find
due to COVID or before COVID? Before COVID.
And so just before COVID, I had gotten some projects greenlit. I was so excited. I felt like I was on the top of the world, and then everything kind of crashed down. And you know, with all that uncertainty, like so many other people, and not just creatives, but all industries.
Yeah, totally.
So I was at home at my apartment, and I was at my kitchen island, and I just was like, what do I want to do? And I was like, I got into this to be an actor. I haven't been acting because I've been building my company. I should just write. And so I just sat down, had a glass of wine, and just started writing exactly what was bothering me and what I felt, was just kind of the scene that was playing in my head that I wanted to unpack, and wrote it there. And then shortly after, filmed it in lockdown with 3 other people, my DP, sound recordist, and one of my best friends who's a stuntman, Jackson Rosario, who I love so much. And
Cool.
and then we premiered at Mammoth Film Festival, and it took place completely over Zoom. Wrote at my kitchen island, filmed at my kitchen island, edited at my kitchen island, and it's a Zoom call between a mother and daughter talking about mental health and the generational differences that we feel. I'm really proud of it and really excited. And the actress that plays my mom, Nahani Johnstone, she was actually in Atlanta, so she filmed over Zoom.
Wow.
So I'm excited for you to see it. We recorded the Zoom, but it's not shot over Zoom.
Right. Okay.
But
So what are the more profound parts of those generational differences?
I think that honestly, just the vulnerability and the I would say allowing yourself to be more vulnerable is something that I find in my generation and the generation behind me as well. Like, I think that I love my parents. I'm super lucky, but I think going through my experiences and them watching me go through my experiences really helped change their viewpoints as well. Because, being an athlete, you're taught, okay, get up, shake it off, go do it again, or like, go do this. We have stuff to do. And I think I've always been such a positive person, but going through multiple losses and just certain events in my life, I was like, I don't think I can be positive. Like, if I'm being positive, I'm being fake. Yeah. I don't have any sunshine in my life right now. So I don't know where you expect me to pull it from.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm exhausted. So I think just finally hitting a wall of being like, I'm not okay. And it's so overused, but it's okay not to be
It's okay. Yeah.
And I felt like as soon as I started being more truthful about all that, like, my work got better. I started like writing and creating my own stuff, which is what I've been always wanting to do. And to, be able to do that and simultaneously produce and greenlight other people's projects and help them tell their stories. So I feel like I'm on a tangent and I totally lost what you actually asked me.
But
I didn't feel like you're on a tangent.
By sharing your vulnerabilities, it opened up
but
opportunity.
basically, the generation, the older generation,
generational differences. Yeah.
was more in line with her passing, more like the Queen,
Right.
in the sense that
Under the rug, like, don't think about it.
Now, that being said, it's a lot easier to be like that when you have glimmer of positive stuff in your life. Like, when you look at the Queen, it's not like she's at ever rock bottom, okay? It's easier for her to maintain some level of positivity when you're not dealing with, you said basically, there's not a part of your life that you can find positive.
Right.
Okay? That definitely is not the case for her. At any
I have
point,
wonderful friends,
although she is, fantastic, that's definitely not. But the thing is, so that's really interesting. So basically what you're saying is the older generation, regardless of that, would put on a face or treat that situation, try and maneuver through that situation of despair differently.
Totally. I think
In what
go
way?
around it or hide it under the rug or, and I think for me, it really wasn't until it was messy and not fun. And I'm grateful as much as I felt like I didn't have anything positive. I do have really wonderful parents and I have incredible friends. Like, my friends are everything. And I think through this experience of just being more honest, my friendships got better. Like, I've always been the friend to be there for my other friends and be the tough cookie, and just like suck it up. And I'm like so grateful for my friends to be able to be soft with them and to be like, guys, I'm actually really struggling. And they're like, friggin' finally.
I know that, 'cause I'm that person too. I always like the sunshine, but it's like, sometimes it's like, hey, I'm having a really hard time with this. And I got to be straight up and let you know.
Right. It's more about the willingness you are to vocalize it and share it. And ultimately, the ability you have to be at one that's your way through it.
Totally.
And I think that actually is the difference between the generational. I think that the that older generation is my way through this is to under the rug it.
Totally.
And the younger perspective of it is my way through this is to actually express and share where I'm at.
Right. And I think too, and being unapologetic in that, I mean, I probably overshare to a lot of people, but
I'm on the side of oversharing personally in my life.
I mean, trying not to like tell everybody every single awful thing that has ever happened.
Yeah.
But, to be like, yeah, this happened and like, this really sucked. And to not fear, like not to hold them, I feel like I'm sure during your process, the people that you told, about having unsuccessful rounds of IVF, that I'm so sorry. And they break down. And then you're in a situation where you're grieving and you have to take care of somebody else, and that must like that. And I love people and people I never know what to say. I don't know how to say the right thing. No one does. But when you're in a position where you're going through stuff and then you have to take care of someone else who's apologizing to you for the stuff that you're going through, you're like, I can't
handle this. I can't handle
I can't do it. I'm just going to say thank you so much and move on. And like that, I think those experiences just have become more tools for my toolkit in a way, to be like, okay, thank you. Like hold space. I don't need to make sure someone obviously I want people to feel safe and okay. But I don't need to make them feel validated in their apology for the stuff that I'm going through. I can just accept it and say thank you and move on. And I think there's so much power in that. And I think that, for the older generations, just we live in such a different time,
like a totally different time.
Yeah. Like my mom's late 50s, my dad's 64. And like, I think that my dad's whole background is in deviant abnormal psychology. He's a really tough dude who now we have a little Yorkie. He's older now, but this dog, I swear to God, has changed my dad's entire vibe. Yeah. I went from being like, man.
I always wanted a Yorkie. I've never had a dog.
He's so cute.
Repeat the phrase your dad's in deviant and...
he was in deviant abnormal psychology.
Deviant abnormal psychology.
So like really bad people.
Yeah, that is deep. That's the kind of movies I like.
Yeah, I've never met a normal deviant, so I would expect them to be abnormal.
This is true, but
it's your movie.
To sum up my childhood, I wasn't allowed to watch The Simpsons or South Park.
Neither was I. I wasn't allowed to watch them at all.
I watched Goodfellas when I was 7, so like I feel like that explains my movie love and my like taste in cinema. But I think coming from those different generations and having those conversations with my parents, like. My dad, by having all of this knowledge and experience in really tough and difficult situations and in dealing with people with, intense trauma, he understood my grief in certain ways that not a lot of people could. And in a really messed up, and it's not messed up. It's actually, I'm really grateful. Like, I feel like through all of the crap, I got an opportunity to know my dad better, like, and more as a friend.
Yeah.
So those really tough situations, like when you're able to like, open up to the people that love you and care about you in a different way, like, not be so tough and not, just be more honest. It's helped every area of my life, like obviously my personal life, but my work life, my work is better. I'm like, actually, the stories that light me up. And I've made that promise to myself, like, if I don't want to watch it, I don't want to make it. So I think that's kind of always helped me with the projects that I've decided to choose and work on.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
What about your mom?
My mom is awesome. She is awesome. In what do you mean about my mom in particular?
Like, what was her area of focus?
In like work or in life?
Work life.
Oh yeah, so my mom's a gymnastics coach. She still works within gymnastics now.
Still does?
Still does, yeah. She's actually in Las Vegas right now for a acrobatic conference.
Wow. Legend.
Yeah, she loves the gym. She is so involved and so invested and loves the community.
They must have been an interesting couple.
My mom is like bubbles and sunshine, and my dad and I are like a little dark and twisty. Like I'm like, I think a good mix of the both.
Yeah, I would say that you're a good mix because you really like.
You really.
I know you as like that kind of like a sunshine, which like people often say about me, and it's like we've always messaged each other and been like support each other and that like being the sunshine person. But I mean, also especially when you watch like the content that you have created, it's like, oh yeah, she's my kind of girl. She loves a good, I love something revenge. It's like a good revenge or like a serial killer type of murder.
Yes, it's true.
And it's like if you met me, you might not think that, but hey,
it's your surprise.
It's true. You're right. No,
you would never be like, oh, I bet she loves a real good murder.
It's true though.
shows.
Yeah.
Into it.
But I think it's important to have that. And I think like so much of the positivity or the sunshine factor, if you will, is because like I love people at the end of the day. And I feel like you have such a powerful way of connecting with people. And that when you have that, people instantly want to be around someone that's shiny, but you also have like so many layers to you,
And real feelings. I remember Sean, like we've been together for 10 years, but he said to me, which is something that had stayed with me. And I try to remember this all the time when I come home. He said, you used all your sunshine up on the internet and you have nothing left when you come home. Because I would be like out and about, like I'm Casie Stewart, being happy and everyone's friend and this and that. Yeah. And I come home and I just literally just melt and I just want to put on my hoodie and sit on the couch and watch a murder show and not talk to anyone.
Yep.
And it's like I can be both of those things,
Yeah, totally. And be them throughout the day, and
layered.
Yes, I have many layers.
I'm an onion.
Like Shrek. Like a croissant.
Yeah, or croissant, or one of those really nice chocolate cakes.
Oh, wow.
That 17 layers.
Both of those. Oh my God. Why have I never thought of a croissant?
A croissant is a good one, better than an onion.
Such a bougie one.
The onion makes you cry, but a croissant's like light and fluffy, but layered.
This is true.
Even the middle of a croissant is sweet.
Just, it's soft. Nice. Especially if there's chocolate or almond in there, because you have to get through the layers to get to the sweet bits.
Yeah. The town near my cottage has like flourished since COVID, like small towns have.
Amazing.
And we got these 2 new bakeries.
Where on Lake Simcoe are you?
Beaverton, East Coast.
I filmed on Lake Simcoe last summer. So
okay. Where did you film?
Yeah.
Well, in Aurelia. So right between Lake Simcoe and Lake Couchiching.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
And I love Friday Harbor. I'm like, this place is a magical secret.
Oh, yeah. Did you go to Mariposa Bakery in Aurelia?
Yes.
Oh.
And I have their pickles.
Oh, yeah. Pickles that place would do well anywhere.
It's amazing.
You could drop this place in any town in the world.
We need to make sure we add a link
Queen Street
so everyone can know about this legendary
swipe up
place.
to Mariposa Pickles.
Totally. So a couple new bakeries went into Beaverton, and this town is a small town. But new communities are being built there, and some people have really opened up some trendy places. Okay, one of them is like, you go in there, it's like Toronto prices. Okay, this is like my wife Talia, she's from North Bay. Okay, you go up to North Bay, you go to like places, it's like Toronto prices. Some of these places, they're it's crazy. Like you get the coffee, it's like a $7. Like you're set.
It's crazy.
Coffee like you're in the double digits, But this one place has unbelievable croissants. Okay, and they're like, I mean, I've been through. When I was through Paris with Talia, like they're great
on
croissants.
Point.
They're
North
on
Bay
point.
croissants are on point.
These in Beaverton.
Beaverton.
Okay, yeah, seriously. And it's brutal. It's brutal because it's like it's so close. So, so I was thinking now when I think of layers, I think of croissants, and I think
that's
you got to get back to Beaverton.
I'm going to definitely think of. I really like the croissant analogy better than onion.
That's true.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to say I'm a croissant, not an onion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My breakdowns are way cuter than yours. Thank you. I'm a croissant.
And
I
delicious.
Didn't say that.
Even though it's a little, it's still many layers in a breakdown, but as soon as you bite into the center of it, there's some softness there.
It's true. It's true. There's heart. I feel better. Okay. Versus an onion, not so much.
Crying.
Yes, just tears constantly. I don't even know why I'm crying. Yep, it's true.
I love it.
How long do most of these projects take from their inception to when you got that?
That's a really
people are watching that movie
again, hitting me with the good questions. Usually when it's a feature, I know that I'm going to be involved with the project for at least 1.5 to 3 years. From start to finish. It depends on what time in the process I come on. Like the animated feature I was saying earlier, I came on in October 2020. October 2021, last year, we were still doing ADR and recording because animation.
What's ADR? For people.
That's actually additional recording. I think that's what it stands for.
Okay.
I think. Cool. Don't quote me. All of a sudden I panicked. I don't know.
I won't. No problem.
ADR, yeah, I think it is.
I thought, okay. So
Jerry Turner Entertainment.
Thank you. Exactly. There you go.
I like its full unabbreviated name, to be honest.
I actually have a side note that
I feel like you could roll.
Why I call it GT after.
Yeah, one of your.
But I joined that, and then we did our ADR a year later, and then this year, so October 2022, we're still not finished.
Right.
So not because of delays, just because things take so much longer in animation. So and then from there, we're going to go to originally the plan was to go to festivals, and now it's probably going to be straight to streaming, which is really exciting. But festivals are also so fun and great. Last summer, I ended up doing a couple shorts. As much as I did the ones that I wrote, I jumped on a couple others, including Underpaint with Anna Hopkins, who she directed and wrote and starred. She's amazing.
Wow.
And that one's going to premiere. I don't know if she hasn't posted exactly where it's supposed to be, so I know, but I'm not supposed to say it.
Okay.
But that one, that's been less than a year of my life.
What's it about?
It's a story about her dad, actually. So her dad was an artist and a painter. And it's a really beautiful story of grief and the father-daughter relationship and of love, you know? So I'm really, really excited for that one. And we were selected for Telefilm's Not Short on Talent. So 7 films out of over 100 applied for this program.
Amazing.
And we were selected, and it played at Cannes this year. So that was really cool.
Cool.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, something like Pamela and Ivy, Leah and I were looking for projects, the Poison Ivy origin story. Leah and I were looking for something. We were both in development deals, both, you know, waiting on other people's timelines and, you know, being independent filmmakers, always, you know, just being like, oh yeah, we can go find the money and go make this thing. And so to be in a situation where we had to wait on other people was not something that felt particularly nice. You know what I mean? When you're so used to being like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so we both went in on it. We were co-investors, co-creators, all of that. And that came together pretty quickly. So we started prep in that April 2019, and we were supposed to premiere at Comic-Con in 2020. Obviously, 2020 was a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
So we ended up premiering May 2020. So almost a full year to when we shot it. And that had a lot of heavy VFX and all of that. So I would really say it depends on the project. I have 2 projects at CBC. One's been there for 3 years. One's been there for 6 months.
Right.
So 3 years is a really long time, but COVID again.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that puts a little...
And beyond
and
movies,
everything.
you've produced live events too.
Yes.
So walk me through the production of a live event that you've done.
So I've produced festivals, events, charity, galas, all that fun stuff, award shows. Award shows, I think, are probably, it's a toss-up, but I love doing industry programming at a film festival because, again, love people. And I think as a filmmaker myself, getting that opportunity to be like, oh, what do I want to learn? Because if I want to learn it, I think odds are someone else does too.
Yeah.
But I produced for TL Webfest. That was up until 2019. So 2019, we were at the TIFF Bell Lightbox. It was our biggest and most successful year.
Yeah.
And then decided to pivot more into scripted content, but then consult on a lot of different festivals. So an award show, why I love them so much is because you are flying at the seat of your pants.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, you have all of your creators who are usually your presenters in some capacity, who are, you know, there for the show. So they want to be with their friends. They want to do all that stuff. But it's just, you know, you put this awesome show on, usually with, you know, music and comedians and just all these different types of performances. And if an audience member sits and watches it and is like, wow, that show was amazing. I'm like, that's amazing because we're all on fire backstage.
Yeah. What they didn't see is all the commotion in the back.
All the teamwork, all the, you know, figuring it out, being like, okay. And I think that helps, that chaos, that organized chaos in a way, helps me when I'm on a film set. Because you know that, like, nothing's the end of the world. I think that's a huge thing. I think that as creatives, it can be so easy to slip into the mindset that, like, your art is all that matters, you know? And so, or that it's just you. Especially if you're, you know, the director, the writer, you know, the leading force. But you're not. You can't do anything without your team or your audience. So, live events are fun. They're different. Festival-wise, like I said, industry programming. So then from there, finding out the topic that I would really like, finding out, A, if I know anybody, B, if there's someone that I've really always wanted to meet.
Yeah.
And be like, hey, can you come do this thing? Or, you know, I really admire your work. I'd love to have an in conversation with you to be able to actually, you know, discuss what you do and dissect your career. Like, yeah, so I would love to do more live events. I think, you know, I'd love to do maybe like Canadian Academy or something like that. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
They'd be
That's
lucky
a great
to have
show.
you.
I hope so. Maybe one day. I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, put it out there.
I just did Buffer Festival and Fan Expo's award show, and I loved it. So much fun.
Amazing.
I feel like I rambled.
And GT, you didn't ramble. And GT, what the acronym?
Yeah, GTE. But so why, in the beginning, I called it Jerry Turner Entertainment.
Yeah.
And I would go to all of these conferences to pitch or to have a meeting with someone, or someone would email me and be like, or the biggest mistake I made, I put my cell phone number on my website.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. Don't do that.
Yeah. And so I would have random strangers on the internet call me and be like, hi, I'd like to speak to Jerry Turner. And I was like, there is no Jerry Turner. It's me. And they're like, well, it can't be you.
Yeah.
I'm like, and same thing at festivals or at conferences. I would come sit down at a pitch room. You know, they have these one-on-one, almost like speed dating.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I really love to do at festivals. I love putting together the speed dating of getting creators to come and talk with heads of different production companies and streamers, all that stuff.
That's cool.
But
a little speed date.
Yeah, but so people can connect because it's actually it's hard to get in the room.
For sure.
But anyways, so yeah, I remember one of the first times, I'm not going to say who it was, but it's a very large studio. I sat down for the speed dating and she's like, where's Jerry Turner? Like basically, like, where's your boss? And I was like, it's just me.
I'm the boss.
And he was like, does your mom know you're here? And literally, it happened at Banff. We're good friends now. And I think if I'd handled it in a different way, it would have gone really badly. But now it's something we laugh about.
Yeah.
Because in that moment, I had a choice. I could either be defensive and be like, you know, screw you, which was what my head was saying. But I was like, no, she's waiting outside with her four-ways on. Like, I make a joke out of it.
Totally.
And
Right.
because
Good for you.
yeah, because you can either, not that like some people might look at that and be like, oh, you deflected
Yeah.
that. But I think it's an opportunity to also change the narrative, you know, like I look back now, I was 21. I kind of understand why not a lot of people gave me an opportunity or were hesitant to. But it makes me more grateful for the ones that have,
Absolutely.
That's
you know?
amazing.
So that's what now with my company, I'm trying to do that, like trying to find people from different areas, age groups, communities, backgrounds to be like, hey, let's work on this. Let's give you an opportunity, whether it's a project or mentorship on a project that we already have. So it's important.
And hopefully they don't disappoint you and create a disdain for young people. And
I mean,
I'm excited to see what happens next. You know?
yeah, but I don't want to disdain, but people need opportunities to fail.
Yeah.
You know, like you need, if you don't have mentorship,
It's
like
true.
I think that's the one thing. I have some really great mentors now, like mid-level, I would say, and where I hope to go next. But in the beginning, I didn't know anyone and I didn't really have anyone. So the people that took a chance on me, I am forever grateful for.
Absolutely.
You know?
But your persistence too is what drives that outcome
it's admirable.
as well, you know,
Thank
which
you.
is it's
Thank you.
definitely a two-way street, which is
you.
wonderful. So
Okay.
thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun. I've got croissants. We talked. I don't even what.
So many things.
Yes. So many
Yeah,
things.
thank you so much. It was so good to see you in person and
I know.
just like talk more about the things that you've done and the content that you are making and looking forward to seeing what's next for you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. You guys are awesome. Grateful
Thank
to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning into this episode with Mariah Owen. Check out her work at gteproductionsinc.com or mariahowen.com.
Find more episodes of our podcast at castofcreators.com, subscribe on YouTube, or listen on your favorite podcast platform.